Okay.
Thank you, Blanca.
Sure.
So I'll just repeat the name of the series. So we're going to talk about part 3 today, engaging your students with active and interactive teaching strategies. And this is me, Lynette, and Blanca. Say hey, Blanca. Will be your host today for the series. Say hey, Blanca.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today.
So slide 2, please. So today we're going to go over, when Blanca gets there, we're going to go over, it's a lot of objectives here, but we're going to go over identifying the benefits of interactive learning in the classroom, preparing and managing the classroom for active learning. We're going to talk about identifying the low tech and high tech and no tech and the different methods of time management, as well as preparing your teacher toolkit. And now we're going to start off with a word cloud. Everyone loves a word cloud, right? And so we want you to put in a word cloud what your definition of interactive learning is. And it could just be one word or two. It could be very short. So you want to go to your web page and go to, or your mobile phone, and actually type in go.h5p.com. And then when it asks you to enter a game code, you want to enter that number, 8427809.
Okay. Sorry about this. I am going to log in so that I can show you the word cloud.
And I'm going to go on my cell phone.
Bronca and Lynette, I entered that code, but it's telling me it's invalid. Do I have the
right code?
Yeah. Is anyone else having that issue?
Let's see. Bronca's going to work on that. Let's see.
Yeah, let me get...
I'm getting a very weird bunch of messages in Chinese that says the domain is for sale. So I'm going to close mine. It's closed.
I think Bronca's going to change the code, but I got an invalid code too. Wow. So did you type the word go, period, Kathy? Did you
did.
I go, period, h5p.com?
I did. That's it. Hang on. I used all lowercase letters on go.h5p.com. Yeah.
Now I did get the invalid code, but I think we just had to reopen it again.
It worked for me.
So let's see, 8427809. See what's going on for me.
Well, I think the game code changed now that I went in here and reactivated. So let's do this.
Yeah, it says invalid code.
Yeah, so let me go in here and I'm going to change the slide. Whoops.
And in the meantime, we'll just hang out here. And just while I can just do my little commercial here, while Bronca's getting that together, that new code, just so you know, the city team does have access to H5P. And if you want a cool design like this in your class or any kind of other stuff like accordions or something similar to what we had to course art, you can contact your instructional designer and your instructional designer will make those pages for you and put it in that class. You know, unfortunately, we only have enough licenses for instructional designers, so that's why it's not an open invitation for everybody. But you can just let us know. We can make quizzes for you, formative assessments. We can make all kinds of things, kind of make your class a little look groovy. And we know that's once we get on Canvas. After a while, right now, we're just focusing on getting Canvas in there, making sure it works. But Kathy, you've been on Canvas a couple of semesters, so you're probably good to go, ready to put some cool stuff in there now.
Yes.
Okay, here is the new game code.
Okay, 4025756. And I'm gonna try that too.
Now I'm having.
Working for me, yeah.
Oh, we tested this out too the other day.
It says connection failed.
Oh, it's working for me.
Oh, it's working.
Yeah, I'm in there. I just submitted my word.
Yep.
Wow. So I'm having the weirdest thing happen that I left I changed my screen size, so that I could get to my web page. And now I cannot get it to go back to like I've got just this very weird small square. There, now I'm back in. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So are we still
I-
at the goh5p.com? Is that
Right
the-
here.
Yes, go.
Right.
Yep.
goh5p.com. And then
And
your
the
gate
number
code.
It's 4025-756. No spaces, no anything.
Now you don't necessarily have to, you can type in the
Got
same
it.
words. Yeah.
All right.
Uh-oh, what's the code now here?
Oh, right
40.
there.
4025-756.
Yeah, and you can keep typing in as many words, I believe, as I think we left it open, or is it, did we leave it at one word?
It says it's waiting for everyone to respond.
Oh, okay.
And the
Oh,
little
yeah.
bouncy thing, the little chat thingy.
Right.
Okay. You can leave this word cloud open to students to type in as many words as they want also. So I think we left our setting in for one word. But here, so we have 4 out of 5 participants.
That sounds about right.
Oh, there we go. So we have communication, student-centered, collaborative, and learner-centered. Okay, so those are very good words and I guess definitions for
Definitions,
interactive
yep.
learning. Yep. So we'll kind of circle back to this as we go through our slides. But I think you for the most part are kind of point on about what active and interactive learning is.
I think you is, and I have a kind of small definition because Branka's going to go over this later when she introduces the later style. But basically, I have it as just being hands-on, real life approach to education, building student engagement through guided social interaction. So this is not the definition that we're going to go through further in the course, but right here it's just some social actions, social interaction with your students, putting in some engagement. So basically, in a nutshell, we're going to talk about the teaching strategies. During this session, we're going to cover interactive learning as well as active learning as we continue on.
Can I just add one word? I thought I was going to get another chance for another word, but I would also add the word asynchronous because I really want to point out that interactive learning and social presence can happen in an asynchronous way. I really fear that when the pandemic forced everybody online, that we wound up with face-to-face classrooms moving to Zoom classrooms. And what has been a long time accepted online best practice in teaching all of a sudden has become commonplace, and people are giving live synchronous lectures. And we've known for a long time that we don't need to do that to be interactive and create social presence.
Right. And we'll touch up on
that.
that. Yeah, and we'll touch up on those points later in our slides as we talk about some of our teaching strategies. And I think a lot of faculty believe that it's either face-to-face or it's online. It's synchronous or asynchronous.
Right.
But they don't realize a lot of what you do in person, you can move to an online virtual setting or switch it back into an in-person setting, depending on how you create those activities and interactions with your student. So it's kind of thinking outside of the box in your teaching strategies. And we'll kind of touch up on those points as we move on to those slides. But very good point. It's a really good point, Catherine.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so interactive learning. So this is kind of a rhetorical question for you. Interactive and active learning, is it the same thing? When we kind of like talk about all these different teaching strategies and teaching styles and learners and learning styles, and there's so much, there's teaching and education, there's so many different categories, and it's such a broad area. But specifically when we talk about interactive learning and active learning, you know, a lot of people think that it's interchangeable, but interactive and active learning aren't always the same thing. There's a plethora of scholarly debate on whether interactive and active learning are the same thing, whether they're completely different or if they're dependent on each other. Most will say interactive learning requires some sort of interaction by the learner, whether it's student to content interaction, student to teacher interaction, or student to student interaction. Active learning encompasses a broader range of teaching strategies and learning activities. A couple elements that both have in common is that interactive learning and active learning engages the student to actively participate in their learning, and it encourages higher order thinking, teaching, and learning. So one thing I wanted to point out is my go-to tool when thinking about active learning and how to develop activities, discussions, quizzes, and so forth is to refer to Bloom's taxonomy. Dr. Benjamin Bloom developed this order of thinking categories. And then another one that I kind of like to also kind of refer to, and it's a little easier to kind of look through the scale here, is Dr. Norman Webb's simplified version of Bloom's taxonomy, which breaks it down into 4 categories. And basically he just takes, you know, some of these levels in Bloom's taxonomy, condenses them into these smaller categories. And if you Google Bloom's taxonomy, I like to Google Bloom's taxonomy like verbs, and you get all kinds of different charts and verbiage on how to write how to use different verbs in writing, like discussions, and how to write activities, and how to use some of these higher order thinking skills. And when it comes to, like I said, interactive and active learning, it's these higher order level thinking skills is that you want to think about when you're creating your interactive and active learning activities in your classroom. Because again, a lot of this knowledge comprehension, this is stuff that students can just do on their own. This is just rote memorization. They can go in, they can open their textbook, they can read things, they can make notes, they can kind of like make note cards, study cards, even with partner up with another student and you know, test each other's skills. It's just rote. It's not creating any interaction. It's not creating any engagement between the student and the content and the teacher. Kind of sort of not really creates, you know, if you're, you know, creating a study buddy, it's not really creating much of a student to student interaction there. They're just really kind of helping each other out as far as like, you know, studying and kind of memorizing things. But when you come down to here, this is where, when you create like groups, this is where groups are important. It's helping them come together and creating analysis and evaluating, creating and applying their content and their knowledge of what they've learned. Okay, so our next one. All right, we have an activity for you. And Lynette is going to take care of this one.
Okay, and guess what? I'm not sharing because my
Oh,
internet is not working here at the job.
do you have the poll ready anywhere?
Let me see. Yeah, I have it. It's the last one, and it says barriers and challenges.
Can I grab the poll, or do I need to stop sharing?
Yeah, let me see if I can stop sharing. Make you stop sharing here for a minute.
And in the meantime, I'm going to look at the chat real quick.
Can you guys see that poll or no? What do you see? Can you all see that
your
poll or no?
desktop, your
We see your
desktop is there
desktop.
now.
So what happens if I launch the poll?
Oh, here we
Can you see
go.
it now?
What's in your way?
Is it the polls in the way?
No, it says what's in your way. There's a slide.
Oh, Yeah, so what's in your way as far, just you have to just type in a word or two, or I can't see the thing. So just what's in your way. Choose all that apply. It's not a multi, you can select several of them.
Where are the choices? The choices don't seem to show. Oh, there they are. You have to scroll down, everybody.
So it's like, so most people have already did it. So it's lack of time or planning, balancing diverse learning needs, technology difficulties, or my favorite one, I'm just not interested. So it's, just let me know. It looks like we've got a couple of ones. I'm going to give it a few more seconds. And then I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. And then at that time, Bronca, you're going to have to take over the slides again, but after I end the poll. So I don't have it up. So I ended the poll now. Can you all see? Let me share the results. And there you go. You see the results there? So we got 75% with the lack of time for planning. I definitely I could attest to that today. 100% on balancing diverse learning needs, which is very important. And we're working on that. I don't think that's a topic that's going to ever go away. And I don't know if we'll ever 100% meet that because technology changes so much. And then the other one, technology difficulties, as I am having here, I won't speak for Bronca, but as I am having here, technology difficulties, but I always tell everyone, when it comes to technology, expect the unexpected. So I say that for me so that if it works well, actually, I'm happy that it worked well. And if it didn't, okay, we're gonna just work our way through it like we're doing here. And that's how instructors have to do. That's how students have to do. Believe it or not, students don't know everything about technology and they lean on us just as much as everybody else. How do you do this? They freak out if it doesn't work out. So usually if mine doesn't work right, I poll the audience. They help me out, do this, do that, and it all works out well. And no one said, believe it or not, I'm just not interested. Was that only me? Sometimes I'm just not interested. It all depends on what's going on in my day. And today, probably I would have selected that. I should have voted. But okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll so that Bronca can now take over. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so teaching and learning. So here, let's have a little discussion here. Our first question, so why is interactive and active learning beneficial to student learning? Anybody want to tackle that question? Clayton, how about you? I haven't heard from you yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sort of rises higher in the Bloom's taxonomy. The more interactive students are being with the course material and with each other.
Yep,
they're
exactly.
applying and analyzing.
Right, exactly. So interactive and active learning, basically it engages your students. It provides application, synthesis of content that produces connections in their learning. It helps students better retain what they've learned rather than passively sitting and listening and inactively learning. So the next question, how about Terry? How will you help your students understand why active learning is beneficial for their learning?
I think if you can show them how it helps them. So if you can give them a difficult concept and then and walk them through the experience of active learning and show them how they were able to grasp that difficult concept.
Yes, right. Now I think kind of backtracking that step is that you need to focus on your first day of class because some students basically want to come in and they want to be lectured to, right? And I've heard that a lot, that some students, they come into class and they're very resistant to group work, to activities, to whatever it is that the teacher has kind of put together. They just kind of just want to sit there for their hour and a half and just basically listen. I'm going to quote that, listen to a lecture, because some of them really just kind of want to sit on their computer and work on their social media while they're, again, quote, listening in on the lecture. But I think what you first need to do, your first task when it comes to helping your students understand why active learning is beneficial, is that your first task on your very first day as you walk into the classroom is you need to engage your students with a question: why is this classroom, why are these activities beneficial to your learning? Walk them through on the benefits of active learning and why the activities they do in the classroom is helpful to their learning. And what you should emphasize to your students about active learning in the classroom is that it is a community. This is a classroom where you collaborate, discuss, and work together to learn. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be in groups, but it is a community. It is a place for them to learn. And then again, some students will be resistant to group work, and quite a few more will be resistant to very large group work. And it's essential that you spend some time on the first day of class discussing the benefits of active learning and active participation in class, and really set those expectations on the very first day of class as you're kind of walking through your syllabus and talking about all those different assignments and quizzes or whatever it is that you're going to be doing throughout the semester with the students. Okay, this is Lynette's turn.
So this is just one of our title slides. It introduces, or should I say, more of it on the next page, but we're going to just talk about the various teaching strategies that we have for the interactive and active learning classroom. And I don't know, Kathy, if anyone made it to our active learning sessions when we had the club rooms that didn't last very long. It seems like as soon as we open those up, we went into the pandemic like 6 months later. So we didn't get to use the rooms like we wanted to use them. So we talk about a lot of teaching and learning strategies, as well as classroom management, time management. You must have it, whether it's in a regular classroom or a virtual classroom, as well as we're going to talk about the learning activities. And I just want to know, am I sounding a little better? Because I just realized, like the slide before Bart was on, that not only did I not have my camera on, but I still had my mask on from being at work. So I just took my mask off. So hopefully I'm sounding better.
Sound good, Lynette.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next slide. And the first thing we want to talk about is acclimating to the classroom environment, whether it's virtual or in class. We have to do that regularly. When you go to the classroom and teach, most people take their materials with their markers, their mic, or whatever they want. But when you're in a virtual classroom, you have to do the same thing. Everything is not online, or should I say, I don't like to have everything online, because just like today, I had technology problems. And if I had had my little toolkit ready or whatever, I could have had my PowerPoint slide or my notes that I wanted to talk about. And I could have just had, things printed out or things organized so that I wouldn't have to depend everything being virtual online and then not having access to it. So make sure you have everything you want to need for the classroom environment, no matter what environment you teach on. Make sure, if you can get there early, Panopto or whatever you're using is working. So then we also want to establish activities for the classroom. Like me and Bronca had already established what we were going to do here. Didn't still work 100%, but that's okay. We established that we wanted to do a poll. We established that we wanted to do, use H5P and some other things. And they worked perfectly fine when we tested them out. And here we go today. And then they didn't work 100%, but we made it through. So it worked. We found out how to use it a little bit, and we got help from everyone else. So manage group behavior. Oh, that's a good one. I've had lots of groups. I'm dealing with that right now. As a matter of fact, we would like to list, I should say, maybe you should tell your groups how to work. I've had a couple of online classes, and if you guys have experienced this, let me know. With group behavior, sometimes we just set up how we want the group project to work whether it's virtual or classroom, and we might say, hey, we're going to set you up in groups of 4 to 6. And sometimes we just like, okay, you figure it out and da. But this is a class of 4 to 6. I found that we need to give them a little bit more to have group behavior. I just monitor a group right now, just now. Unfortunately, 2 of the people out of the 4 called in at the last minute and said, oh, we can't come. And 5 minutes before the session, but they were the team leader. They had group roles, and one was the script. They took the notes. So the other 2 people, they were scrambling at the last minute because the main model or the main people of the group didn't show up, or they came last, something happened. And so when they got on, the 2 people that was there, they were kind of like a little bit salty because now at the last minute they had to kind of do everything in for the group. They mustered through it. I thought they did a great job, but they mustered through it. But it took a minute for their attitude to come. And then one of them did wind up coming late, and she came into the class, and it was the person that was doing the script. And once she got in there, the whole class changed. The dynamics of it. She jumped right in, did her part, took over more, and it made everybody happy. So I think after the session, I was sitting in on a session, and they all talked, and they all, they talked about what happened, what went wrong. They did their little debrief and things like that. So you kind of want to manage group behavior. If you can, or let them manage it, or find out how it would be managed if something went wrong, like something like that. I also had a group where I didn't specify, okay, you should meet, you should set up a time and meet with your group. I didn't specify. So guess what? They all decided to do their group project via email. And when they did it via email, guess what? It's delayed response, right? So I'm going to say Bronca and Laura is on their email all the time. So they just talking and making plans, putting ideas in. And next thing you know, they were finished with the group project, or almost. Then me and Emily come in a day late because we're not checking our email. And Bronca and Laura then practically did it all. And we felt like me and Emily felt like our ideas wasn't heard. We had thoughts, we had opinions, we wanted to add some things. So you might want to look at all that when you're assigning a group. Maybe you want the students to figure it out for their own stuff, or maybe you want to, put some roles in it, or some kind of restrictions, or some kind of rules or behaviors or something. So those are the 2 things I went across. So that goes into the second one, that you're writing clear instructions for the group activities, kind of telling them what to do or how to do it, and they can do the rest of their own, but you definitely want to kind of, tell them if you want them to meet regularly, or if you want them to set aside 2 hours, or set aside at least an hour, and if they finish early, they can go, but you might want to set some ground rules. Do anyone else have some examples of group or classroom behaviors that you think would benefit the rest of the group here?
I was just thinking, Lynette, that it helps me a lot to have the clear instructions for group activities. And then I think the students, if they know what's expected of them, they perform up to that expectation. And if you expect a lot of them, then I find generally that they'll do it.
Mm-hmm. And they usually get the task completed in on time.
Hopefully.
And what about a percentage of the group activities? If it's, I know if it's on class, but if it's online, do you give them a percentage of the final grade, or do they fill out group forms? How do you do your groups?
I do it based on their writing that comes out of the group. So how well they interact with each other in the discussion forum, for example.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Any questions about that? I just find group work very fascinating because I work in a whole lot of them, and I hear, they come in, they end well, but they do take a minute to get together a lot of times, that from my experience. But 90% of the time they end very well. And like they said, the task is completed and the task is completed very well at the end. So if I'm not snooping on what's going on, I wouldn't know there was a rocky road here or there.
I like Laura's suggestion that you include it in the rubric, that's part of the evaluation.
Oh, absolutely. That's a good one, Laura. All right, next, Ranga. So time management, it's always important for us. You want to make sure that you block out some time for your classroom for teaching. You know, maybe you want to do 5 or 10 minutes for a teaching activity, and then you want to do an activity, and then you want to throw in another, 5 or 10 minutes to teach. So you kind of want to block it up a little bit, like we're doing here. Every couple of slides or every few minutes of teaching, we stop to ask questions, we stop to do an activity or things like that. And you want to do the same thing when you do your videos, or should I say any activity that you have, you kind of don't want it to extend over a long length of time. So you just want to make sure that time management and you're blocking off time in your class. If you can't create a lesson plan, that's very important here. If you write down detail what you want to do, what you want that lesson to teach about. And I know things don't always go 100% as you plan, but if you write it down, at least you won't forget what you have to cover or what you want to talk about. And even if you don't get through that during a session, whether it's virtual synchronous, you can like send out a worksheet on it about, what you didn't get to finish, and that you can put it into the class, in the virtual class. And you can send it out via email and just have it in a module. So you want to make a lesson plan or as we say, an outline to kind of figure out what you want to do. Exit tickets. We love exit tickets, or should I say, I love exit tickets. And you can do this whether you're in a classroom or whether you're in virtual. You can have an exit ticket to talk about what was going on. What did you learn for today? Talk about what the topic was, so you can kind of see where the students were. Did they understand the content? So you can kind of go over a little bit. Maybe the next time you meet, you want to go at the beginning to talk about. So we do exit slips a whole lot. I highly recommend them for classes, and you can even do them all online versus it's a regular class or a virtual class. You can do an exit slip on time. And I wouldn't have a lot of questions. I'll just have 2, 3, 4 X tops about the lesson. What happened? What did you learn? What was your takeaway? Some small questions like that, so you can just know what the students learned, or did they find that lesson even helpful? And that'll help you fine tune your lesson for your next teacher. Does anybody do exit slips right now?
This is the first I've heard of them. So I'm interested. Do you literally do them in writing?
So the concept of an exit ticket is like literally giving your students like a sticky note, and that's their ticket out. So before they leave the classroom, they're handed a sticky note or a note card. So typically it's a multifunction use, but as far as time management goes, if you're short on time and let's say you kind of had to really rush through an activity or a piece of your lecture, you can use that exit ticket to let the students know, okay, before you leave, I want you to write down something that you feel that you need some better explanation or clear explanation, or something that you are still a little bit muddled about. Like, is there a point or topic or something that's a little muddled that we need to that I need to address once we leave this classroom? And this is where your LMS comes in very handy. So then you can go back and then you can tell your students, okay, I'm going to take your exit tickets and then I'm going to review them. And then if I see there's something that big percentage of you are all having a difficult time, or maybe, that, we didn't have time to spend on a concept or a topic, you can go into Canvas and then you can create a page in there and say, okay, I see that, there's a topic in here. There's some point in my lecture that, I need to kind of really further explain. You can put in a video, clarify or add some additional information for the students in there, before they leave. They can use those exit tickets for like that. Or like Lynette said, before they leave, you can give them, all kinds of different questions on how to use those exit tickets.
I actually do all mine virtually now. I used to do the paper and pen or whatever, but it just took me too long to start gathering together. And then, like I said, I would have to also compile them and then put them in the learning management system so they would see it. So now I do it all online, but I do not open them until like 10 minutes before the class ends. So if my class is ending at 3 o'clock, I set it on the LMS to open at 2:50 and for it to close at 3:05. So when we're, so students can go in right away at 2:50 and start filling out this exit ticket. And if it takes somebody 5 minutes, they can get up and leave. If it takes somebody 10 minutes, they, stay there until finish. So when they're all done, I can see that everyone completed it, and they could just get up and leave the class. So so I started doing mine all online now because I was just walking out with all these papers and then I had to read them all. So it really depends on your choice of style and your teaching style. If you like to sit down, some people like to sit on a bus or whatever, if you take a CTEI to read them when you leave, or, like I said, I can read online. So it depends, but it served the same purpose. You find out, what they take away, what they need to touch more on, and it finds out what you need to change in your class. And I think Laura put a link in chat to help, to give us a little example of that. Are there any questions about that? Any more questions?
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, so the next slide is about learning activities. And we talked about this kind of at the beginning in our few slides ago about what's no tech, low tech, and high tech. So basically we just have these 3 slides, or should I say these 3 categories. And as you can see, I'm not gonna go over them. When we did the active learning class, I just took some activity cards basically, and I just held them up and I passed them out, should I say. I had different color coded codes, and one was saying, active, and one was saying not active. And I just would name a few things, and the instructor would hold up the cards and tell, the color cards, and just tell. So that's no tech. It requires no tech. It's easy to do. Any kind of structured discussion, it's easy to do. You just sit up here talking like we're talking. It's no tech whatsoever. Well, a little tech for Bronca. But for me, no tech. The whiteboard, no tech. Students write on it. They interchange their thoughts, move it all around. Those are in the active learning room. And the low tech, supposedly polled everywhere. And I guess this HP5 was low tech too. I don't know. I'll think about that. So presentations is considered low tech, and the high tech will be screen sharing and video recording. I definitely agree with that. Screencast, and look at that, H5P. Okay, that's where I struggled, right? And the light board would be high tech. So if you guys ever want to know about the light board, or we have one in city, we haven't used it often, but we have a light board. So if anybody's interested in learning anything or trying out the light board, feel free to come on down and visit us at city and set up an appointment, and we'll be happy to let you use it.
Right. And to trickle back to the last 2 slides, when you're thinking about your learning activities and what you want to do in your classroom, you kind of really have to consider your classroom management and time management with these activities, right? Because sometimes we have these activities in our mind. We're like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do all of these activities. And then we plan for them and we get into our classroom, and then we're trying to lecture and then do all these activities. And then we realize we ran out of time. So this is where, your lesson plan kind of comes into play, because then you can kind of outline and say, okay, I need to allocate, only 2 minutes for this poll. It should only take me 2 minutes. Maybe this case study, I'm going to allocate 30 minutes of my time. That way you can manage your time in your classroom while you're there and not feel pressured to, squeeze in 30 minutes more classroom time in 15 minutes that's left in your time at the end there. And then also classroom management. How are you going to manage those activities with your students also? Are they going to be group activities, individual activities, those kinds of things in here that need to be considered. So those are kind of just like my little points in here. All right, so that way, now I'm going to segue into here, our little teacher toolkit. So what's in a toolkit?
I love it.
Our in-person toolkit can consist of a lot of different things that you can keep handy and bring along with you. And I have this little image here of a toolkit. It can literally be a box that you bring with you to each of your classrooms, but also it's a toolkit that you keep handy in your computer, right? That you can bookmark, like your Canvas, you can bookmark. Any technology like Kahoot that you can bookmark, your polling tools that you can bookmark in your computer. And obviously, you know, you're virtual, you have to make sure you have a webcam in your toolkit. And those are kind of the things that you have to think about before the semester starts. If you're teaching virtually, that you have to make sure that you have all of these tools available and in working order, because sometimes, you know, we think our webcam is in working order, then come to realize, you know, 2 weeks in, our laptop's really old and then our webcam died. You know what I mean? So it's like, we kind of have to think about all of this stuff, what's in our toolkit that we're going to need for the semester, and make sure that our toolkit's in order before we start. And then in our person, going back to that one, so keeping that toolkit handy in classroom, even though we have a lot of that technology available in the classroom when we walk into that podium, everything's available. Again, you never know when technology fails. So even though Lynette uses her sticky notes virtually, you know what I mean? What if, you know, you're in class and your LMS decides to crash or something? You know what I mean? Then you can pull out your little toolbox here, and then you can hand out sticky notes. You know what I mean? And then you can have students write, here's your exit ticket. That way there is an activity readily available to students. Also, this point here, I will actually share these activity cards. I have a PDF from our colleagues at University of Illinois that shared with us this PDF of all of these different activity cards that you can literally kind of like print and cut out and have this card deck available in your toolkit. So if you know, technology fails, you can pull out this card deck and say, okay, let's do think, pair, share today. And it gives you instructions in how to conduct this activity, and it's all no tech. So it's a great little toolbox to keep handy with you as it doesn't have to be this huge toolbox here either. I actually have one in my office that I have an example, because this was a in-person workshop I had done a couple times before, that I literally brought this toolbox with me and opened it up and showed everybody that was in there, and all the teachers were like, wow, I want that. But there's if you ever want to see that toolbox, you can always pop into my office. I'm happy to share and show you all.
But cowbell.
I don't have a cowbell. I'm not big on making big noises in the classroom. I'm not big on that, but you can. I mean, you know, Peg is big on throwing mittens. She can keep a mitten in hers. You know, you can keep whatever you want in there. Yeah, Peg likes cowbells. But like I said, anything that you can use, that you want to use, you know, for an activity, you can keep in there and keep it handy, and just keep it with you and bring it with you in the classroom. And again, it's always your plan B is that actual teacher toolkit. And again, as far as like your virtual one, you know, there's a lot that you can do that you can keep in mind that should be your toolkit, right? I think we all know we have to be prepared, but we don't realize that a lot of what we need to teach virtually is a toolkit. Like I said before, you know, it's Canvas, it's all the little technology tools, your webcam, your screencast recording tools, everything that you need. You have to make sure before the semester starts that you have readily available, and that make sure that it's in working order before you start the semester. And if you have any problems, you can always, you know, visit us or visit our wonderful METC guys. They're always there to help with, you know, more of your really in-depth tech tools and things like that. Okay, any questions or anything on Toolkit? Or
I just put a link in the chat for that's for online instructional activities. So
Great.
That lists all the ones that Branka was talking about, but it's definitely not her PDF that she's going to share, because you can actually, like she said, print those and cut those. But this one leads to each one of those activity that she's going to hand out for you.
Yep. Okay. So on to some active learning teaching tips for the classroom. So one key element when it comes to active learning in the classroom and preparing your classroom for an active learning setting is that students should really come into the classroom with some background knowledge of content to prepare them to actively participate in the classroom. Now, this is really for those classrooms where you're not going to come in and lecture. So if you really want to come in and just be a facilitator in the classroom and come in and prepare all of these activities where your students are actively learning and participating and engaging in their learning, you're going to have to basically think about the flipped classroom model. And this is where you're going to really need to use your learning management system, Canvas in this case, we're should all be used to by now. But using Canvas, having all of their learning content in Canvas and making sure, again, day one, setting those expectations and letting those students know this is a flipped classroom. This is a flipped classroom. You're going to come to classroom each week prepared to learn. So you're going to have to come in. I'm going to open up the modules a week in advance. You need to learn, watch a video, do whatever it is that you have them do in Canvas. And then when you come into class, we are going to actually do activities. And then give them some ideas of what they're going to be doing, whether they're going to be in a lab, simulations, various different activities. Give them what the expectation is of the classroom. Now, if you're going to do, a mixture of that, let them know that is what you're going to be doing. You're going to give them shortened lectures, increments of 15 minutes, and then an activity for the classroom. And again, identify how to use and manage the classroom, and then keep your students active and engaged while you're in the classroom. Walk your classroom, ask questions, provide activities. And then, so for the virtual element of that one, keeping them engaged is, again, not doing a Zoom lecture like Catherine said for an hour and a half. You know what I mean? They can do that in their modules. Give them all of that learning in their modules. Set up your virtual sessions for something more applicable, something where they could apply their learning, maybe a case study that they're working on, or even a demonstration that they could be doing in the Zoom session where they could be showing each other a step-by-step procedure on something versus use Zoom lecturing for an hour and a half. So that's engaging them. You don't necessarily have to walk the classroom in that, but you're, essentially you're there, you're kind of watching them and letting the students kind of taking ownership of their learning in that setting.
Yep.
All right. I think,
Next slide for me, Veronica.
yep. We're
And
ready.
this last activity for our last few minutes, you're just going to use your reactions in Zoom. And we're going to pop up a few phrases where Veronica is because she's leading the slideshow. And when you hear the phrase, if you think it's active learning, use your reaction clap. And if you think it's passive learning, go ahead and give us a thumb up on your Zoom reaction. So
Yeah, I don't know if you can you see my screen here? I have reactions pulled up. I don't know if you can see that part, but if you go to more, and then you'll see in your menu says reactions if you don't see it in your tab.
I can see reactions, but I'm a co-host. What about everybody else? Can you all see your reactions?
I've got it.
I've got mine up.
Okay,
All right.
All right, ready for
go,
your first
Veronica.
one? Well,
It's that technology thing.
I know.
I know. Expect
There we
unexpected. There
All
you
right,
go.
first one,
Complete a
complete a
quiz. What do you think?
Active or
Active
passive?
or passive? I'm not seeing reactions. What are you? Are you seeing reactions?
Let me see. Well, I have to pull up everybody's faces here.
Well, you got to have them all visible because they also fade away after about 20 seconds.
I see
Yeah.
Catherine's thumb up, Clayton's a thumb up,
All right.
Terry's a thumb up.
All right. Sounds good. Let's go
Okay.
to the next one. We're running out of time, so we gotta do these last few words, and this is the last slide.
My advanced button is not
I
working.
put watch this YouTube video. Wonder what that is.
Clayton, thumbs up. Peg, thumbs up. Terry, thumbs up. Laura, thumbs up. Emily, thumbs up. Catherine,
Now
thumbs up.
what happens if you watch the video and it had some questions intertwined in it? What do you think that is?
So personally,
All right.
I would think that's interactive learning, not active learning, but that's just me.
Yeah, today we're interchangeable. We're using them as interchangeable. So
So
let's
I would say neither.
that's not an option. It's not an option, Bronca. Stick with the rules.
I don't always stick with the rules. You should know me better.
Simulate the steps on how to secure and wrap a broken. What? Come on, what are we doing here?
Okay, we got a clap.
We got a clap.
Yeah, Laura, Terry, Peg, Catherine claps. Clayton a clap. Yep,
All right.
those are all definitely active.
I don't know where we're ending. Do we have another one?
We have a couple more. Read chapters
Read
3 and
chapters
5.
3 and 5. What are we doing there? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Passive learning for everybody.
Oh,
That's
so
right.
passive.
I think we taught you well.
And let's do the next one. Listen to this week's podcast. If you haven't listened to City's podcast, Laura, can you put the link to our podcast in there? You should get caught up. We got a lot of great ones.
So, yep, passive learning.
Yeah, passive learning, but a great passive learning, I must say, especially if it's city. And I think we got one more, right, Bronca? Do we got one more?
Nope, that is the last one.
Thanks, everybody. I got to leave to go teach a class.
Thank
All right,
you.
Catherine,
Enjoy
thank you
your
for joining.
class.
Yeah,
That
bye,
is actually
everybody.
All right.
The end of our slide, actually. Here's a list of all of our references. Again, our special thanks to our colleagues at the University of Illinois and Purdue University. Before the pandemic, we had an opportunity to go out to visit them, and they have these amazing interactive learning classrooms. Purdue University just installed a whole building, the Wilmeth Active Learning Building. If you ever have a chance to go out to Purdue University, you should definitely check out their the Wilmeth Active Learning Hall. It's an amazing place. University of Illinois, Ava Wolf is also, she's the one that provided us the PDFs of those active learning cards, which I will share via email to everyone. And then a couple of books that I particularly like that I use as references here for teaching tools and active learning in here. And again, thank you for coming. We really appreciate your time and coming. And again, these are our email addresses, and then you can see any one of us by emailing us at city@rush.edu.
Thank you, Laura, for providing the podcast.
Yeah.
Of course.
All righty.
Thanks
Any
to all of
questions?
you. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good day. Good evening,
Okay.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.